With the issue of anti-Semitism just one hot topic in the sea of political fodder, as the Democrats are being accused of creating a home for congressional incumbents who are fanning the flames of anti-Israel and anti-Jewish sentiment. The existing debate around intolerance and divisions among Americans further aggravated by the comments of Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, blamed for many anti-Semitic tropes which saw anti-Semitism and anti-white nationalism resolution passed in Congress. In the background, US President Donald Trump sounding a call to action for Jewish Democrats to abandon their party, tweeting a quote from model and spokesperson for Jewish activism group Jexodus Elizabeth Pipko, who said this on Fox and Friends. She said, "Jewish people are leaving the Democratic Party. We saw a lot of anti-Israel policies start under the Obama administration, and it got worse and worse. There is anti-Semitism in the Democratic Party. They don't care about Israel or the Jewish people." Now, this is how Jexodus describes itself. It says, "We are proud Jewish millennials tired of living in bondage to leftist politics. We reject the hypocrisy, anti-Americanism and anti-Semitism of the rising far left. Progressives, Democrats and far too many old-school Jewish organisations take our support for granted. After all, we're Jewish and Jews vote for Democrats until today." It goes on to say, "We're done standing with supposed Jewish leaders and allegedly supportive Democrats who rationalise, mainstream and promote our enemies." On a press release announcing the site's launch, it was added, "We'd rather spend 40 years wandering in the desert than belong to a party that welcomes Jew haters like Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez." All right, it's time to debate. Joining me from Washington, D.C., Executive Director from the Jewish Democratic Council of America, Halie Soifer, and from New York, Advisor to the Donald Trump for President campaign, Jeff Ballabon. Great to have you both with us. Jeff, we'll start with you. You have told us that Jexodus is, in fact, your brainchild. Now, it hasn't officially launched, we know that, but Trump has made it world famous with his tweet of what Elizabeth said. On Facebook, I checked, the group has about 3,700 followers, so I can't say that's a significant number. Are you, though, seeing droves of Jewish Democrats rushing to join?
Okay, so first of all, let me correct a couple of things. I never said it was my brainchild, and what I've been saying, which is the truth, is that anyone who tries to lay claim to the idea that we're at a moment in history where American Jews should no longer be enthralled to the Democratic Party is making it up, because this is coming from all sides. There's been a call for Jexit, which was a takeoff of Blexit, which is blacks leaving the Democratic Party, which is a takeoff of Brexit, which is Britain leaving the EU. And my idea was simply to label it Jexodus, because I thought that would give it more of a Jewish orientation, and it has resonance. So this is not even an organization yet. We did a pre-launch of the idea. I'm obviously not a millennial. I was introduced to Elizabeth, thought she would be a fantastic person to carry the message. I took a leave from the campaign. You introduced me. I'm not part of the campaign right now because I want there to be no confusion about this. Right now, this is literally a grassroots movement. We announced the idea of it, and it's gone off like a rocket. The president tweeted it. People on the right and the left were getting nonstop calls, everything from Satmar Hasidim to Reform rabbis, men, women, young, old, dyed-in-the-wool Democrats until now, dyed-in-the-wool Republicans saying, thank God, because something needs to be done. It's outrageous what's going on at the Democratic Party right now, and they need to hear from Jews.
So, Halie, what do you say to that then? With the new House, do the Democrats have a problem, something needs to be done about anti-Semitism in its party ranks?
With regard to anti-Semitism, we, the Jewish Democratic Council of America, have called it out wherever it's emerged, whether it is from Democrats or Republicans, including our president and some of the Republican leadership. But with regard to Jexodus, I would say that this is a Republican fantasy, and the notion somehow that Jews or Democrats have allowed anti-Semitism is just completely incorrect. As I said, we've called it out when it has emerged on the right and the left, there has been Republican hypocrisy and a silence, a deafening silence, as the president has invoked anti-Semitic tropes on the campaign trail to the Oval Office. And now we see Republicans using anti-Semitic references as well, and there is silence. So we do not believe that Democrats will be leaving their home, their political home, which is the Democratic Party. Jews will continue to vote Democrat, and we have seen over decades 70 to 80% of Jews support Democrats. If anything, Republicans have, or Jewish Republicans, have been weakened since President Trump has been in office, and we've seen a decline in terms of Jewish support for Republicans, falling from 24% in 2016 to 17% in 2018.
All right, but Halie, we are seeing a new house,
and of course,
this is where we're seeing the issues arise from the Democrats.
Okay,
Jeff, to you.
if I can respond? Yeah, I'd like to respond. So first of all, you know, Chief Rabbi Lord Sachs in the UK defined beautifully and eloquently, and it's on YouTube, you can look us up, when anti-Semitism becomes dangerous. And he said there are three things. When it moves from the fringe of politics to the mainstream party, when the party sees it's not being harmed by it, and when the people who oppose it and protest it are vilified. Right now, all this nonsense that Haley's spouting about the president is just simply a lie. This president has never uttered an anti-Semitic phrase in his life. The Democrats and the friends of the media have been spinning out of control, making this up, when everyone, because they're threatened by someone. Someone was called out anti-Semitism every step of the way, someone who the Israeli government and the Jewish people see, those who are most visibly Jewish, who support him upwards of 90% in this country. Orthodox Jews who are on the front lines of anti-Semitism support this president over 90% because they see that he calls out anti-Semitism. While the Democratic Party can't even vote against BDS, an international anti-Semitic movement. Here's the reality. The Democratic Party is not just dallying with anti-Semitism, it's putting it on the Foreign Affairs Committee. It's going, the Speaker of the House is going along with Ilhan Omar on the front cover of Rolling Stone. Ilhan Omar is a more dangerous anti-Semite than David Duke and Louis Farrakhan combined. But here's the ultimate truth. Haley's out there trying to defend the Democratic Party. She's getting paid for that. No one's paying me for this, and I'm doing this as a Jew, not as a Republican, not as a Democrat, and we're being joined by all kinds of Jews who are saying the following. The mission, I think the cause of Jexodus, when it launches, will not be, as Halie likes to say, oh, we all know the Jews vote Democrat no matter what. She's making the argument of Jexodus. Jexodus is needed precisely because that's their attitude. It doesn't matter how anti-Semitic we are, the Jews are going to vote for us anyway. That's got to stop. Jexodus's argument is not, we want to make the Jews stop voting Democrat. We want to make the Democrats move away from the anti-Semites. That's the victory. Do I think Jews should vote more Republican? Sure. I think Trump is amazing for Israel and the Jews. I think the Democrats still have it as a party that Israel is an illegal occupier, when the Republicans have said Israel's not an illegal occupier.
So, Jeff, I want to allow Halie to respond to that. Continue, Halie.
Well, there's facts and there's fiction, and what Jeff is saying is fiction. The facts are that polling has demonstrated that Jews have historically supported Democrats, and in the age of Trump, the reason is that 70% of them disapprove with the president's handling of anti-Semitism. In addition, his policies and his words are antithetical to Jewish values. And this is not just about Israel.
What are Jewish values, Halie?
Halie,
what are Jewish values?
Separation of children. Jeff, I allowed you to finish, and now let me finish. This includes a separation of children from their parents at our borders, or an immigration policy that discriminates based on religion, hateful and divisive rhetoric that the president is spouting on Twitter, including the completely false accusation that Democrats don't support Jews. So we are anti-Semitic. So we are basing our conclusions on facts, and what Jexodus is a fantasy based on fiction. I understand why Republicans like Jeff would try to chip into their now diminishing portion of the Jewish vote, now less than 20%. Gallup just found that in 2018, 1 in 6 Jews identified as a Republican. I understand why Jeff would leave his position to try to, in desperation, to try to have this political effort. But it's not going to work because the policies of our president are antithetical to the policies of that the Jewish community supports. It's antithetical to our values.
Meanwhile, elected Democrats are already supporting Jexodus. Jexodus. Elected Democrats are already saying they're supporting us. They want to move away from their party. That's what's so amazing here. Haley's going to keep on spouting this, and she's exactly making Jexodus's case.
All right, so Jeff, I want to ask you a question, okay? Because Trump might be pro-Israel. We've talked about this. That there always needs to we need to be reminded that there's a distinction about being Jewish and inherently being supportive of Israel and its policies, and I'm sure you can agree with that. So if Trump is pro-Israel, let's put that to the side, and we can acknowledge that he is. But is Trump doing enough then to condemn and denounce things like white supremacy and anti-Muslim sentiment, to condemn all forms of bigotry, which of course, according to Jewish values that Halie began to talk about welcoming, I suppose, the stranger, would that perhaps be more appealing to liberal voters than moving the Israeli embassy?
Well, you said liberal voters. Liberal voters will vote for liberal causes. Today, liberal and progressive causes, it does include not just anti-Israelism, but anti-Semitism. So those who first associate as progressives, if they want to call those liberal, if they want to call those Jewish values, of course they're going to continue voting. Those simply aren't Jewish values, however. And the notion of separating out being supportive of Israel versus being hostile for Israel from being supportive of Jews and hostile of Jews is a fiction and a fantasy. Everyone truly understands that if you're anti-Israel, if you single Israel out for criticism or you don't single others out, it's because you're anti-Jewish. And there's been no president, no world leader in history that has ever stood firmer, not just for Israel, but against anti-Semitism, which has been acknowledged also by the Israeli government, by the Israeli people. But in terms of all forms of bigotry, sorry, I have to go back to the question.
By Jews, is Trump doing enough, Jeff,
as much as Donald Trump?
Is Trump doing enough to condemn and denounce white supremacy, anti-Muslim sentiment? I'm not only talking about anti-Semitism.
Absolutely, absolutely. Absolutely. Donald Trump has been unequivocal at every stage of the way, and it's extraordinary. You have groups like CNN taking videos and editing out what he says and changing what he says. Donald Trump, if you watch what he says, he has been, hands down, from the beginning, not just of his presidency, but his campaign, the most clear in defining and rejecting hate on all sides. Hate of all kinds. And when he said that, he said, how dare you say hate on all sides is bad. The Democrats argued hate is right on one side. So Donald Trump is against hate,
that is just patently untrue. That is patently untrue. Let us remember that in August of 2017, as neo-Nazis and white supremacists shouted, Jews will replace us in the streets in Charlottesville, and an innocent protester was killed, it was President Trump who equated those protesters with the neo-Nazis, saying they're very fine people on both sides.
That's a lie. Haley, that's a lie. That's not a lie, it's a smear. No, it's a lie and it's a smear.
And there are fiction. And what I'm hearing from you is complete fiction.
Look at the video.
Going back to the facts.
All right, Jeff, let Haley respond one more time.
Look at the video and look what he said.
We've conducted polling, and I am talking about facts now. In October of 2018, we polled 800 Jews, and 70% of them disapproved of the way the president has handled anti-Semitism. 92% of them consider themselves pro-Israel, but an overwhelming percentage, 74%.
Jeff and Haley.